Hey everyone, my name is Abhijit. I'm a certified life coach and a mental fitness enabler. Welcome to my channel. Do take a moment to quickly subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more videos. I'm going to be diving into today's topic for this video, which is on imposter syndrome. I think it's a very commonly used phrase, something that I've heard a lot of corporate professionals use. My friends who are in the corporate circle use this a lot, at least from a personal standpoint. I've heard a lot of musicians also say this. And I think where a lot of corporate professionals come from is essentially that they feel like they're frauds, like no matter what they do and how much they achieve, how many degrees they have, how much work they do, they always feel they're not doing enough. And then a lot of creative artists, such as musicians, often tell me and talk to me about how there have been times when they're not sure, if they're composing music that has not already been done before. And it's almost like a bit of a plagiarism aspect that comes into it. But I think it's important to try understanding what imposter syndrome is by the connotation that it actually is, by actually understanding what it truly is, right? So the word imposter essentially means something that you're not. It's you impersonating something. It's you becoming something that you're not. And I'm not trying to scare you, but in one sense, if you really think about it, everything that you are, right? Everything that you are is an accumulation of whatever is around you, right? In fact, the yogic system talks about this as well, right? When it says, I'm not the body and I'm not even the mind, that's something that yogic systems talk about. A lot of spiritual gurus also talk about. They talk about how from a very young age, from the time you're born till whatever age you are now, your five senses pick information from in and around, and that then goes and becomes stamps of identities, and you start living different identities. You're either a teacher or a father or a husband or a wife or a professional golfer. You're always playing different roles and different identities. Hence what happens is you are subscribing to somebody else's definition of success. I think that itself is where you begin to become an imposter. And I know that if you actually go by the so-called textbook definition of it, or what people may otherwise talk about, many may disagree with me. But at the end of the day, if you really think about it, you not feeling authentic means that you are being something else that you're not. So the best way to tackle this so-called imposter syndrome that you're going through is to first recognize that it is not actually something that is to be worked on through control and through aggression, in the sense that you cannot control this with just willpower, is what I'm trying to say, right? It has to begin with education. It has to begin with understanding, number one, why this feeling of like a certain pattern of self-doubt keeps happening, like from where you find this inherent need to keep telling something negative to yourself, to keep saying you're not good enough, or to keep saying that I don't think I'm doing enough, or I don't think I'm being authentic. So there's a lot of this negative kind of self-talk that keeps happening over a period of time, and it becomes almost like first nature. So the first step towards actually tackling imposter syndrome is to first really understand who you're not and what you're not. And that itself is a bit scary, because you all this while perhaps being told that you are a golfer or a teacher or this or that, and you begin to assume that the roles that you play is the identity of who you are. Essentially, all you're doing is putting mask after mask, going from role to role, and in the process, in trying to fulfill certain duties, you begin to kind of lose yourself, so much so. If one of the reasons And especially a lot of people struggling with this would say that they feel like they're frauds despite their achievements or their qualifications. The question really is, if you subscribe to genuinely what and who you are, why would in any way your qualifications or your achievements not bring you a sense or contribute to your sense of authenticity, right? That's the first layer of the onion peel, right? Which means that you are not connected with yourself. And that is a bit of a harsh truth, because, and I don't blame you for it, rather, because we live in a world like that. We are expected to play different roles for survival, for to deal with the economy, to deal with just the rapid pace at which the world is going. This is something I touched upon in another video as well. You have to become a human being instead of a human doing, and that itself is a journey, and that itself is something that as you learn to do, you begin to realize that staying still and becoming one with yourself happens only in the present moment and happens only after true realization of who you are. Once you know who you really are, there is no need for you to, that thought won't cross you that you're becoming an imposter, right? Does becoming just feeling like you have imposter syndrome also mean that you're likely plagiarizing something? Well, let's put it this way, right? If you are blatantly like taking something off from somewhere, right, that is plagiarism in itself. But by that extension, right, now I'm talking in the English language, so am I plagiarizing the language? Or if someone is talking to me in Hindi, are they plagiarizing the language? They're using words and texts and they're creating their own sentences. Are they plagiarizing the sentence? Are they plagiarizing the language itself? They're not, right? Which means that the language that we use, the way we live, all these little things contribute towards our thinking also. And creating a strong sense and positive sense of a thought process only begins when you accept that the same side of that positive coin also has a negative to it. Positive cannot exist without the negative. Day cannot exist without the light. So just sheer positive thinking and willpower to only keep becoming better will not get you there. There needs to be an educated approach. Otherwise, it's just you going on a whim and like racing through, and then that's just reckless, right? The reason I touched upon the language side and the communication side of it is to basically say that the self-talk comes from there. That if everything you do and anything you do is plagiarizing, you're probably even plagiarizing your parents' genes, right? Genes, right? That's the spelling of genes, genetic, hereditary genes, yeah, should be. But essentially, you are then plagiarizing your own parents' genes, But that's just ridiculous, right? If you really like deep dive into this more and more, you'll actually come to realize that every source has a source, and that's the point I'm trying to make. And if you believe in a god, then you'd come to realize that each of these little sources are nothing but a creator of that supreme soul. And the reason I also touched upon on yoga in that one sense is because it's a union of who you are with that eternal consciousness. So although the topic began with me specifically diving into imposter syndrome, I thought I should give you the larger picture of it to say that this, qualifying this as a syndrome and then struggling with it inside for days and months and years together, I feel really sorry for you, and I hope it can stop for you, right? I hope it is something that we can work to help you move past, right? And as a life coach, there are a lot of things, a lot of elements that I'd be wanting to put in together to try personalize a plan that will help you work towards and through all those thoughts that make you feel that you are an imposter, right? it's very difficult to break from that thought pattern and that chain of thought pattern, especially if you don't reach out, and especially if you are not consistent with your practice, and everything only starts when you start and when you kickstart, right? It only gets better when you get better. And if you really think about it, it's basically this, right? If you've ever, like gone for an acupuncture sometime, or if you've ever had a massage, for instance, they say that if you massage the hand, right, there's a whole thing to it, right? You massage the palm, there are different nerves that connect to the heart, to the brain. And in one sense, imposter syndrome is basically the pain somewhere else, but the localization is somewhere else. And I'm basically pressing on some pressure point here, which will actually lead there, and it's interesting because if you really think about it, most to all disorders or mental health conditions are essentially a manifestation of us being something we are not, and us trying to find who we are through other channels and subscribing ourselves through other channels and other identities, and then to other metrics of measurement and other metrics of what is right and what is wrong. In fact, even this very voice in your mind which tells you that you are perhaps becoming or you are an imposter is also a voice in your head. It's not true. It's not a fact. It's an illusion that's making you feel so. And there is a way out of it. And it begins when you, number one, want to get out of it. I always tell people this. Wanting to get out of it is the first step. Because from there comes the next step, which is to decide whether you want a solution or you want solace. And if you've decided that you want a solution, you will also have solace. If you've decided you only want solace, then there's no solution. Right? So solace comes about when you decide that you want a solution, and as someone who can work with you on that, to improve your mental fitness, to help work on a plan for you to achieve that goal of overcoming this syndrome, overcoming this struggle, right? It'll also give me an opportunity to see what else is contributing to this, right? If you're someone who's, for example, already struggling with pre-existing anxiety or depression or whatever else that's also contributing to this, then we have to also tackle that. That's also where a therapist and a psychiatrist comes in, right? This is not to freak you out to think that, oh my god, I need help. But this is to actually empower you, to let you know that there is no shame in taking help, right? Because as you learn, the process of self-discovery, the process of self-realization is extremely empowering. Both discovery and realization it's a journey I am also on myself. So I'm not talking from the standpoint of a saint. What I'm trying to say is that we're all in this together. To be honest, there have also been times when I felt like an imposter. I felt like I sound like another singer, and hence I'm not good enough. And I feel like I even ask myself, am I as an imposter being an imposter of the imposter self? It's crazy. Like it goes in a loop. So then I start thinking, hey, am I really being an imposter here, or am I trying to be an imposter? So am I being an imposter of an imposter? And it's like an infinite regress, right? And that needs to stop, right? And I recognize this. I took help through a lot of meditation and just genuine introspection and reflection and trying to understand myself. There's no shame in actually working through this, right? You begin to realize that you may think that is the only thing that's bothering you, and then you go deeper, you realize that no, actually it is something else, and then there's something more, and then you learn to deal with things much better, right? In any case, I just want to let you know that you're not alone. It's okay not to be okay. If you're watching this video, I hope you begin with trying to educate yourself. I hope this video is also educational. Let me know what your thoughts are. And let me just conclude by saying each person's definition of the imposter syndrome is going to be different because everyone's experiences are different. And maybe from a psychological standpoint and what textbooks tell you rather, there will be some kind of commonality, some kind of pattern amongst different people. So let's not really go deep into, hey, no, this guy is not giving the exact textbook definition of what an imposter syndrome is. Because the way I look at it is that it is a symptom of a bigger problem. If you keep dealing with the symptom, you're not going to solve the problem. What is the bigger problem? The bigger problem is that you have disidentified with who you are. And that is why you feel like you're feeling like a fraud. A fraud is also an identity. And who made you, who helped, who got you there, basically? It's likely the things you picked up and the conclusions your mind created over a period of time, right? So to understand the mind better, the consciousness better, to understand psychology better, you've got to start educating yourself. This is not something you can pull through with just willpower. Otherwise, it's just being reckless, right? So I hope you take the help you need. Remember, I'm here, I care, you matter, and do subscribe to my channel. Watch my other videos as well. Take care, and I hope to see you guys soon.